What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Stu's Garage. Sorry for my extremely sweaty appearance, but it's over 110 degrees here in Stu's Garage today, but we got work to do, so we're going to go ahead and knock this stuff out. Today what we're going to be doing is covering a budget big brake upgrade. So this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've been kind of piecing these parts together slowly but surely, but this is pretty much an install that's going to apply to any Fox body or SN95 style Mustang. This modification is going to cost you roughly $400, even less if you're lucky on finding parts. Whereas if you've ever priced out a big brake kit, those things can run $1,500 to over $2,000. So real quick update for those of you all who are following the build. Good news. I've got my clutch fork working. It does what it's supposed to, and it lines up directly to the hole that it needs to. More details on that next video, or eventually. We're not going to cover that today. Today we're working on the brakes. So these are all the parts that you're going to need for your brake upgrade. This is going to be your Mustang Cobra big brake upgrade kit. These are 13-inch rotors, and all the Cobras from 94 to 04 had the same brakes. Right now we're only going to be covering the rotors and calipers because I don't know just yet about the master cylinder if I really need to upgrade that. So we're just going to go ahead and knock this out, and I'm just going to show you how. Alright, so first off, on your Cobra brakes, your pads pretty much snap right into the calipers like so. You got these little clips, and you just press them right in. And that's how it looks when the pads are in there. The ones on the back side have the same kind of clips, and you just push those in. So I'm going to go ahead and push the pads in now. If you have these kind of brakes and you like to change them, as you should when they get worn out, a lot of people like to leave this pad in place because it actually helps you to compress the brakes if you have a clamp. Then you pop the pad out. But that's just a tip for later if you pretty much already have this stuff and you're just watching this video just for fun. Alright, next up, anytime you're doing a brake change on anything, you've got to absolutely clean the rotors. I've done more brake changes than I can ever remember. I never used to clean my rotors, and then I did 2 jobs in a row where I didn't clean the rotors and they had grease on them, and it ruined the pads and the brakes didn't work, and I could not figure out what it was. So get yourself a quality brake cleaner. Don't use carb cleaner, use brake cleaner, because this stuff is like super harsh. This is the stuff I like to use because it's cheap and it's very powerful. Make sure you clean your rotors very well on both sides. Get yourself a clean rag, wipe down the surfaces. You want to get off any oil that might be on there, because when they pack these things and manufacture them, they might be a little bit greasy. And like I said, if that grease touches your pads, it's going to ruin your brakes. Alright, next up, you're going to remove all of your stock brake hardware. If you're rocking a 4-lug setup, you're going to have to remove your spindles and do a whole spindle 5-lug conversion, which I highly recommend because the 4-lug stuff is just garbage anyways. So this is actually a 99 and up style 5-lug, but it works on the whole 94 to 04 5-lug style stuff. So we've already got the brackets off, which bolt right here. As you can see, the rotor slides off smoothly, and we're going to go ahead and throw on this new rotor. But for comparison purposes, there's the old rotor and there's the new rotor. So this is going to make a huge difference. And when I take this car back to Summit Point and run it, this is really going to make a huge difference at the track. Alright, next up, you're going to bolt up your brackets. And these brackets are actually side specific. The way you can know what side they go on is because this larger groove right here is going to face up, and you're going to see that when you install your caliper. You want that bleeder to be up as high as possible. If you put these things on upside down and don't realize it, they're going to be bleeding your brakes, and they're never going to bleed properly. So I've seen experienced mechanics do that. Just make sure that that bleeder is up anytime you put calipers on. Otherwise, you're going to have major issues. So we're going to take this, we're going to bolt it on. We're going to use the same bolts that we had stock. Alright, next we're going to mount up our caliper, and you do that by basically sliding this thing into one groove, and then you pivot it down into the next groove. And I could put the pins in here at this point to hold it down, but they're over there and I don't feel like getting up at the moment. I don't need them right this moment. I'm going to go ahead and transfer the brake line over. So this is where things can get tricky. So this is the set off of LMR. I think they're remanufactured or something. I'm not really sure. But at some point during the years that they were making these calipers, even though the calipers are exactly the same, they have different threads in them. So I looked out. The threads that are in these calipers are the same as the 99 GT threads that I have on my car now. But the threads can vary, and you may have a hard time finding the banjo bolts. Also, I have the StopTech stainless steel brake lines. This is a good time to upgrade your brake lines. And when you buy the StopTech kit, they do come with 2 different types of banjo bolts. I know you can't see it well, but this is a banjo bolt. I don't know if both sets work for both different types of calipers, but I know that I have the correct ones. So just know that if you're doing this modification, that's a snag that you may face if you don't have the correct bolts. And the reason I have this caliper already mounted up before I bolt it on is because you don't want to get your line twisted into a weird position. You want this line to be in the position that it's going to be in once it's on your car. Also, this would be a good time to replace the crush washers that come with your banjo bolts. I'll be doing that later, but as for right now, I just want to get these on the car, get everything installed, because the car's not going to be driving for a little while. So I can always come back and swap new crush washers on. And the crush washer is just a little copper washer like this. Helps everything seal up nicely. Also, be very careful with this brake fluid. If you have painted calipers, you can ruin the finish on your calipers. It can also ruin your actual paint on your car. As you can see here, I'm touching my rotor. Be very conscious of that, because you're going to need to clean your rotors again after you finish your install, because you don't want any kind of oil, grease, or chemicals or anything on your rotor that's going to transfer onto your pads. Sorry I didn't show you guys bolting this thing in, but it's getting a little bit messy over here. Brake fluid is really nasty stuff, and I just not trying to make a mess over here, but it's pretty cut and simple. In fact, I'll show you in just a second. Alright, now the last thing up is to put your retaining pin into your caliper. This is actually what holds your caliper on, because it clips in on this side and the pin holds it on the other side, as opposed to your caliper bolts like you would have on your stock setup. So to get these things in, you have to, I went ahead and cleaned my gloves off because that brake fluid will just ruin anything that it touches. So in order to get this thing in here, you gotta really press down on this thing, and may even want to go ahead and tap it in there. So looks like it's going to give me a little bit of a fight. So it's almost in there. Okay, so here's the pin. I gave it a couple of light taps with the hammer just to push it through. As you can see, it's got a groove in it. So all you do is you take this shim and you put the shim on there. And I'm not going to be able to do this one-handed, but you're going to take this little retaining clip and you're going to put that clip on there. Now we can stand back and admire the finished product. I'm really happy with this. I can't wait to get this thing on the road and see how it actually performs. If you don't want to go with the Cobra setup, you can actually do a similar thing with the the S197 setup. The only difference is you're going to have to get custom-made brackets. That may be a little bit cheaper for you as well. Just know that there's a lot of different ways you can get different factory brakes to work on your SN95 style brakes. So that's it for this install, folks. Thanks for watching. See you next time.